Hey, how are you? What's going on? What should we call this segment?
Nerd
talk.
The brown couch.
Brown couch. Oh yeah. Okay. Can we nerding it up on the brown couch? Yeah.
So how was Melbourne?
Mate, so good. So many layers of amazing just events and highlights and happenings galore, actually. So as you know, I was down there for Melbourne International Games Week, including GCAP, which is Game Connect Asia Pacific, and PAX, which is the Penny Arcade Exchange, I think that's called. So I went down for that. Yeah, Expo, absolutely. And Speaking Simulator. That's the first big event. Like, we've done some niche stuff here in Brisbane, but this was the first sort of big industry show where we demoed the game. And even in my sort of projected best case scenarios, we went better than all of that. I couldn't believe it. Just
because those sort of like meet gamers in person thing, that's not usually your favorite kind of environment. You usually go out of your way to avoid those.
Absolutely. I was well and truly out of my comfort zone. I don't particularly like crowds and noise, and that's all there really was. It was but pushed through it, and no, it was good. The GCAP was kind of a good intro, so just tapping into it. That was for industry, so a bunch of talks from industry leaders, and it was a measured introduction to meeting people, and the talks were interesting enough, and it was a really good crowd. Like, it was a good intro to what came after. So
I think I actually went to that conference in like 2000. Has it been around for a while now?
I don't know if it goes back to 2000. I'd have to look that one up. But I know that it was in Brisbane back in the day. I presented at it actually in 2008. Doing an audio talk with a business partner at the time. And All
right. So what was the best talk?
I don't know that it was about the talks per se. There were a few sort of interesting overlaps and a lot of stuff that went over my head. Hearing about ways that people market their games and new marketplaces coming out and new software, this and that. There was a few bits of audio stuff interspersed outside of the deliberate audio talks, and all of that was, thoroughly sort of worth engaging with. But just, I don't know, it's more about, it sounds weird, but more about the vibe, just meeting a bunch of cool people. I felt my confidence grow over the week.
I always talk about it in terms of like finding your tribe. And it can be really hard to find your tribe. But it sounds like you found your tribe in one of these places that you spend a lot of time avoiding in the past.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And it's funny, like I think I tweeted about it in a sort of sappy way, but I've been on the periphery of the industry for years, but this was the first time I ever felt connected to, the games community.
That's cool.
Yeah. But PAX, once we started that, it was just this onslaught. A giant conference hall, probably larger than the whole Brisbane Ekka grounds, I don't know. But wall-to-wall booths and installations and technology and noise and latest and greatest, and the tiny little retro corner and dice and nerds and painting models and board games and everything. It's all just in there, and people get into cosplay, and it's noisy, and it's a bit like the Ekka in terms of the Germs. As you can hear in my voice, I've got the dreaded PAX Pox that is tradition, I was told, too late, as people were spluttering all over us. But our booth might have been, I tweeted this again this morning, might have been a bit of a totem for the PAX Pox, because we had the Speaking Simulator 3D printed head, which was a marvel of engineering done by Jordan from our team, and it had a giant tongue on it that was bendable.
I saw that.
And so it was a selfie magnet, and people were getting right into it. And it was interesting interpretation of, hygiene standards. Some people didn't seem to mind, putting their tongue to that fabric tongue and just spreading the love. In ways that I would never have done. And the hand sanitizer was there, but I didn't know whether to put it on the fabric tongue or on my own. All over my
You needed to mist
so,
it. You needed a misting hand sanitizer where you could just mist it in the general direction.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, one of those timed things that just sprays out an aerosol Dettol or something.
So people were getting into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it was the most fun part for me was just watching your average punters browsing in a bit of a daze, like they'd seen games galore, and without wanting to, they would take a glance our way and their face would light up and they would just be drawn to it. And some of the comments I overheard were just remarkable, just on the basis of, oh, look at his eyes, I'm definitely going to buy that. And it's like, what? So a facial expression, boom, you're sold. And that, wow, what a perfect customer. But the level of engagement and reactions to both the 3D printed head, and I think there's something, even though our character is a robot, the fact that he's trying to be human and failing terribly and speaking is difficult. Everyone can relate to all of that, and people were describing, that was me last night, or that was me up when I had my hangover or whatever, and there was something infinitely relatable about all of it. And some of the timing of it, I didn't sort of realize. I don't know if Jed, the designer for the game, is actually secretly some kind of comic genius, but the way he's paced, this was just a demo, but the way that he paced it in terms of bringing in new mechanics, the ability to knock your teeth out, just got people, it really cracked people up.
So was there things that you took away after watching the game or people play with the game that you wanted to change or you wanted to fix? Was there stuff that was like, oh, that doesn't quite work?
In my mind, it's still like that was a demo. We put out just a demo, and we were rushing to get that done. And from an audio perspective, I was in no way prepared for it to be sort of publicly shown. Because I was like, oh, it's not doing anything compared to what we want to do on the wish list. So, and I haven't even had access to the Unity sort of implementation tools yet. So that's next on the agenda. But it didn't seem to matter. Like the people playing it would have headphones on, but the crowd just watching, they were intrigued and enthralled, and it was all positive feedback. I didn't hear anyone say, oh, that game sucks. Like,
that's cool.
It was,
So even though you felt like the sound wasn't quite there yet, it was still, the gameplay mechanics were all there, and the sound that you did have reinforced the mechanics.
Yeah, I guess it must have. And I gave some feedback to Jed, and I feel like the crotchety, obsolete player in terms of saying, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it. But there were some seasoned gamers out there, first or second time playing it, and they just nailed it. So I assume that they were hearing the sentences of the character as they were intended to be heard. So that's promising.
That's cool. So what's next for it? Like, aside from polishing and fleshing out more content and stuff, like, have you guys got like a next deadline?
I don't know what the next milestone is, but I'm going to be focusing on the audio pretty heavily and sort of working closely with Jordan just to get my head around like a crash course in Unity and Unity implementation. But just the opportunities that bubbled up out of PAX, I think Jed and Jordan will have their plates full for some time, following up media interest and publishing interest. And there was a lot of, we became a bit of a magnet, it felt like. I don't know what to compare it to, but people were saying things like, you're my favorite game in the whole expo or in the top 3, and it's like, really? Wow. Okay.
So you're putting a lot more time into it than you anticipated, or are you still working on other things as well?
From here on out, do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm in recovery mode still. I'm just unpacking. I'm going to see if I can book in a massage just to restore my spine to a usable state this afternoon. And hopefully ride out, just keep this PAX Pox from spreading. But after that, I'll be diving in and exploring the audio mechanic as best I can, and just reconnecting. I haven't even spoken to Jed and Jordan since getting back to Brisbane, so
they're probably feeling shit house too.
Quite possibly. Jordan sent me a video. I'd been annoying people before GCAP and PAX and during, just letting people know how keen I was for karaoke. And I'd bailed on the MIGW, which is the final developers catch up, one of the after parties, because I had a flight, I had to get up at 5:30, so there was, I bailed by midnight. And of course, Jordan sends me a little video snippet of a whole bunch of people in the karaoke room singing Brown Eyed Girl or something, and it's like, damn it, thanks man, just rub it in. Here's fun you're not having, thanks a bunch. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and just, I don't know, like connecting with my tribe, as you were saying, was really quite remarkable. Just, I felt a whole new level of confidence kick in for me, like, and could probably, graph it as a hockey stick curve from day 1 to 3 of PAX. Just, I was almost day one, I was almost apologetic, like, oh, here's our game, it's not quite finished, to actually, yeah, this is amazing, you know, enjoy, check it out. And I was just, yeah, a massive transformation confidence-wise for me being there. And just happy to meet people at random, and that was overflowing into just public interactions after the event as well. So it's a great headspace. I want more of that.
So did you take your camera and do the filming thing?
You know what? On the first day, I took my huge backpack with my big fancy camera and all my microphones and all the gear and all the best intentions in the world for recording and capturing stuff. And that dropped off pretty quickly. It just wasn't practical.
Caught up in the moment.
It just was not practical. Unless I was a dedicated YouTuber with nothing else on my plate, I just couldn't find the space to do that.
And were there those sorts of people there? Were there YouTubers there, like
Absolutely.
rumbling around filming stuff?
Yeah. I think I got interviewed by one or two of them. Jed was our main media star who got swamped and was talking on camera.
Yeah, right. So do you reckon those people with cameras that are doing the YouTuber thing, do you think they have a different experience?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, they're sort of out to hunt people down and to capture interviews and try to get some sort of content, I suppose, in an environment where audio is almost impossible. So I don't know how they're going to get usable audio from what they would have recorded there. Yeah,
right. So I guess the whole video YouTubing thing is becoming less of a priority now. You're like more into the game and into the sound by the sounds of things.
Yeah, definitely. It gives me more stuff to make videos about, but that was not a place to make a video. I had ideas of what could work there. I could have spent a day and I had a selection of microphones, and it could have been what kind of microphone works best in a giant conference hall, and I could have tested them out talking to camera or whatever, but that would have taken probably the whole day, and I was needed at the booth engaging the public. And it's just a very different headspace to get into. You need to be a seasoned camera, super comfortable professional to do that sort of stuff in that environment.
So that was kind of interesting that you're sort of talking about, I could have done this and learned something about sound recording. So going back to the GCAP one, or just even with PAX, was there like a new tip or a new technique that with your game audio that you've discovered during the last week?
Yes, definitely.
Right.
That notebook that was weighing me down and knocking my spine off, I did take some notes in it. And one of them, I could flip through it actually. There was some cool stuff. It's probably hard to describe without a visual, but in terms of using MIDI channels within one, say, using Contact and a bunch of stacked orchestral instruments and using MIDI channels to refine the articulation of that. So you could map in a bunch of notes and get a melody playing, but if you wanted to jump between sort of sustained strings and pizzicato, rather than loading a new instrument, you can just use different MIDI channels within the same setup. It's just a more efficient way to get articulation. I think I got that
like a bookmark.
How do you mean a bookmark?
A MIDI bookmark?
I don't know about that.
Is the channel is a bit different to that, is it?
A little bit. Like you can play. Typically, you've got MIDI notes going to one MIDI instrument, and my normal way of doing this might be to duplicate and jump into make a new channel with new notes for a new instrument. But this is having it all within the same data set, but being able to assign parts of it to different MIDI channels, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a bit of a pro tip that I got from, I think that was Jeff Van Dyke, actually, a Brisbane local. Local legend, actually. Yeah.
So aside from feeling sick, there's always something that's not the greatest about one of these things. What kind of sucked?
There's been a few tweets about that, sort of people reflecting on, I think it's more from Melbourne International Games Week veterans who do raise some valid points about the pressure that is there to do as much, to go to every
what's
event.
Up to you though, man? Like, not to somebody else. Like,
no, I can relate to this. Like the pressure to go to every party and to be networking at all times and to be on, and the sense of dread if you're missing out on a particular party, the sense of obligation to work yourself to the bone. I could relate to that. I think, although perhaps I'm a little bit older now and wouldn't feel the pressure as much as someone just starting out in the industry, because I'm quite happy to say, you know what, I've had enough, I'm going home. Whereas someone younger might not have the confidence in their position to say that. Yeah, so that was one thing. And just I don't know, it was very difficult to get away from the sound and the noise and there was a couple of little tiny rooms you could maybe go and grab a coffee, but finding anywhere.
Just needed like a timeout space.
Yeah, definitely, like a little meditation pod or something. I'm a delicate flower. Yeah. I need my,
just like the cone of silence just descends from above.
Well, a little egg chair or something that I can just sit undisturbed and just zen out for a little bit.
Yeah. So the whole networking thing was, like you mentioned, that was one of the good things, but it was also kind of onerous at the same time.
A little bit, because there's people there who, you've got international visitors who are only there for a limited time, and you want to make the most of meeting as many people as you can, because you never know where the next opportunity is going to come from. So there is a sense of pressure to meet as many people as you can. I think my last ditch attempt was at MIGW. In closing there, I was going around with our bag of speaking simulator false teeth that you could chew on, and handing those out to just everyone, just to try and make a quick friend, say, yep, courtesy of speaking simulator, have some teeth.
So it sounds like that whole networking without trying to look like it was networking kind of fell like completely apart towards the end. It sounds like you were just like, yeah, I'm here to network. Here, have some teeth.
I was still very much myself in doing all of it. So when people, especially at MIGW, when it's meant to be one of those decompression spaces, like, okay, the public scrutiny is now over, we can all just breathe a sigh of relief together. It was obvious when people were still in networking mode, like the "what do you do?" question, and here's my card, and you know what I'm like I couldn't help but take the piss out of these people and just play with the situation a little bit and say, oh, are we networking now? Do you want my pitch? Blah blah blah, and just doing it in a playful way. And people remembered me. I hope some of them for positive reasons, but
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and another little bit of poetry for the whole thing. When I was first there, and again, it's testament to, I think, how much I've stopped caring about, or relaxed a little bit about, turned my self-consciousness from sort of 9 down to 7. At the first lunch break in GCAP, it was all the food's out, people are sort of politely beginning to get a little bit of food and stake out a little spot to stand, and nobody was quite sure what to do. But I knew it's like, get food, get tables. So boom, I was quite happy to do that. It's pretty obvious to me. So, and I was brave enough, didn't care, just to be at a table by myself as other tables were filling up with pre-established little cliques and groups and teams. I was there by myself, standing by myself, quite happy with that. I met Shannon and Liam from LAI Games in Singapore. They're both ex-Brisbane, and they make physical arcade machines, not just screen-based arcade machines, but experiential arcade machines. They make amazing
stuff. Now we're
stuff.
talking my bag.
Yeah, man, it was incredible. Like, the stuff they're working on is just genius. And they were there to scope out new games that could be adapted for an arcade experience. So I somehow, I don't know, just clicked with those guys immediately. I was, 5 seconds earlier, standing like myself, like a big nerd. We got through the basic, card swapping, polite rigmarole, connected over a few things, and they were sort of my go-to buds throughout the whole event. And I just sort of saw them here and there, and it was a really good rapport. And then at the very end, MIGW was the final party. Same kind of scenario. People had established little tables. I got there early enough that there were still some tables left. And it's like, I'm quite happy to have a table by myself and breathe by myself. And it was those guys that came and, broke the ice and joined my table at the end as well. It's like, hey, you guys again. So that was a nice sort of full circle experience for me, just connecting with the guys from LAI Games.
That's cool. So that was actually something that I noticed while you were tweeting while you were away, is this whole idea of the cool kids came up like a couple of times. Is that like something that's like really pronounced, where there is almost like a hierarchy, like a caste system within?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, that's just the language that I use, but it's like a lot of things that I say, I don't even know to what degree I'm joking sometimes.
Yeah. And that's why I'm asking the question. Like, was it serious? Like, was it quite pronounced that there was like an in crowd? And
there are leaders of the industry, and there are people who have the gift of the gab and whose job it is to network and to build communities. So those people do have some power in setting an agenda of what's happening and where. So it pays to be in the loop and to be up to date on what those guys are doing, because it's bound to be of value if you go to those events. I was extremely fortunate.
And so is that where like this pressure for networking comes from?
How do you mean?
Well, like, if you got to keep to date with these people are setting the agenda. Is it like keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing? Like,
it's not like that at all. I mean, these are people whose job it is to connect as many people together as possible. So they're not trying to be in any way exclusive. No, they just know where the good spots are. They know Melbourne inside out, which is beneficial for those who don't know where to go. But there was definitely a disconnect between, just I found the documentation a little bit sparse. Like, I didn't find a PAX pamphlet until the very end, and I don't think there's much mention of any of the parties. So I mean, there are secretive. There are some cool parties, definitely. You have to be in the know and be friends with some of the companies to go to some of the best parties.
You got to have the secret handshake. Does it get like a little bit Freemasonry?
I don't know about that. You just have to have established a relationship with some of these companies, given that they're footing the bill for the cocktails and stuff. But it is nice. Next year, I think I'm hoping to get an invite to some of these more, fancy parties. Although I'll need extra stamina to sustain a day at PAX and then be able to party afterwards anyway.
Yeah, right. So would you go back to PAX not as like a presenter, just to like hang out?
I think I would prefer to go exhibiting something. I don't think that as a punter I would, unless I had a big crew that was into cosplay and a totally different personality, I just don't see myself getting an awful lot out of it. Like, if you want to play the latest and greatest games, read the reviews, play the demo, make a decision, because playing a game on your couch at home is a very, very different experience to sort of playing it at Sideshow Alley, as it were.
Yeah. So
that's
it
not
reminds me a little bit of like the difference between watching a band or hearing a band at a festival and going to like a solo show.
Or buying the album. Yeah, that's a valid comparison. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right. Oh, well, it sounds like it was a pretty productive week, though.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the process of managing Twitter in ways I never have before, and I'm going through the pile of business cards that I got, and just following up and saying good day to those who I met. So it's nice to have a sense that it wasn't all just a dream. So to have some connections made out of that is cool.
That sounds weird.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got out of it, because you were pretty apprehensive before you went. Like, you weren't really sure what you were getting yourself into, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I wasn't, actually. And I didn't know completely what my role was there either. A large part of it has been historically just imposter syndrome, because I have a strong, perfectionism kicks in for me around my work and how good I think I'm supposed to be, or how many games I'm supposed to have, or how current I'm supposed to be, or how well known I'm supposed to be. And I feel, to a large part, like a bit of a fraud in that department. And yet I'm still bumping into people that there's been some connection with over the last sort of 10 years, which was, kind of affirming, and it was nice to reestablish those relationships a bit. And
it's kind of funny that you're sort of talking about that, because in a lot of ways, that's what comes through in Speaking Simulator, right? You're trying to impersonate being a human.
yeah, definitely. So I can relate to this game on many levels as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. One thing, we don't have to put this in the show necessarily, but just in terms of lucky timing and all the rest of it, I haven't had anything to do with industry bodies. I didn't even really know what they did. I thought they were just for coders and for established companies, and lowly sound designer, musician like myself. Unless I was working on a game, I wasn't particularly relevant to any of the industry bodies who they advocate for government and all the rest of it. So over the last month, I've discovered a whole bunch of stuff, and I've got to give a shout out to Screen Queensland. I had no idea that they really even existed, other than for sponsoring a handful of special people who were lucky enough to have some office space that they have here in Brisbane. But there was some grant money up for grabs, and I put in an application, and they helped me get to Melbourne, which I'm hugely grateful for. But yeah, there's industry bodies like Screen Queensland and the Game Developers Association of Australia that I didn't really know anything about. So it wasn't until I got there I met some people who I've been following on Twitter because I felt like I should, because I knew that they were important just because everyone else seemed to know them, who I met face to face and finally begin to understand, these guys are great, they've got networking skills and they're advocating for gamers and the whole gaming industry. And I didn't appreciate what kind of job that was. I didn't get my head around. I don't understand the machinations of government and how lobbying and advocating for industries can help. But I met this girl, Melissa. She was hanging out with Liam Essler, who's a big mover and shaker down there, who started his own studio, who was associated with the GDAA. I met Melissa. She was cool. We talked about OP1 and how she's got a video synth, and her partner has a modular synth for making sound. So there was talk of having a jam or whatever. So I connected with Melissa and like, that's great. And then come the end of GCAP, there's a giant emotional speech from the head of the GDAA, who I'm embarrassed to say I didn't actually know much about what Tony did, but he's stepping down after 10 years. And it was a very emotional moment for. I got caught up in it. It was like he really, really valued the community. Was very, very connected to it. It's my fault that I've been on the outer. And he announced that the interim CEO is Melissa, who I'd been hanging out with and made friends with. So I didn't realize I was hanging out with game industry royalty, and we're buds now. She follows me on Twitter. Woohoo! So yeah.
I think I think I read somewhere or saw somewhere that that's the best approach to take with some sort of festival or show of some sort. Some professional gathering is just to assume that everyone is like a CEO or a publisher or just really awesome at what they do, and just treat them. No,
that would make me absolutely paranoid. That would make me go into a complete panic and not want to talk to anybody.
Really?
I think that'd be offset by my imposter syndrome. It's like, oh no, too cool. I'll stay over here.
So you kind of went the opposite. You were just like, I'll just assume that none's royalty and just treat them like normal.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that's the general premise, right?
Because imagine
just
like
a person at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. And people want to be spoken to like they are human beings, rather than they have some skill or some networking that's going to benefit you. Because you can tell when someone's angling for something, and there's an insincerity to those kinds of interactions that I pick up on immediately. And I'll probably say something to highlight it and put my foot in my mouth or pop someone's bubble. But it's a delicate balance at the end of the day. Yeah. Well, I feel like, I don't know, I got lucky somehow, and the planets lined up and I networked the hell out of it, by my standards, and had a really bloody good time in the process.
Yeah. That's cool. So do you have like those post-conference blues where you're just like, oh, it's back to reality?
A little bit, because I went into the city yesterday, and actually there's a contrast, because I was staying in Brunswick, and admittedly I don't know the Melbourne transport system all that well, but it did take me about an hour to get to the event and then back from the event, because changing trains and trams and my sense of direction didn't help. But just appreciating where I am here in Brisbane, I can get into the city in 10 minutes with, a 100 meter walk to the bus. It's no big deal. So just feeling refreshed and appreciating where I am. I wandered into the city yesterday with a bit of PAX Pox starting to kick in, but a kind of, a sleep deprivation haze because of the early flight that I had, and just in a good mood, just ready to ride that wave of thinking that everybody's happy if you make eye contact with them, and you can have meaningful connections with random strangers, and just that worked for a little bit. But I also ran into some sand in the gears as well, like people not appreciating eye contact, and like, whoa, hey, some people are cranky. I had no idea.
But it's easy to like I guess to empathize with those kinds of people. Is just like, oh man, you're having a bad day, aren't you? Like, that's usually how I'll just like approach it. Like, if they're like grumpy or not doing eye contact or something, you can kind of see the cloud.
Only if there's breathing space for that. Yeah, I mean, you can have sudden and unexpected sharp responses to things in a city. Things can escalate.
Well, I'm pretty far away from all of that these days.
You're retreated to the rainforest. The nutty professor has gone bush and is building his fabulatorium and magical invention workshop. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you sort of said, I went into the city. So we're living in a spot now where I can ride into the little town or the little village, and that always makes me so much happier. And it was kind of, I sort of could totally relate to that whole Brisbane story where you're like, oh, I'm 10 minutes from the city. It's really easy to go in. There's something about that ease of ability to get somewhere and to do something that makes you happy. Like,
yeah, but I guess I didn't appreciate it before. It takes some contrast. Like, it takes going somewhere where the transport is a pain to appreciate how good you've got it.
As for me, I've been building a tape dispenser, which has been a weird thing.
Yeah, I've been watching you on Instagram, or rather listening to you on Instagram. It's
I had to look up what ASMR was. I had no idea what that was.
Yeah, it's a soothing tone you've got going on, and I don't know what to make of it sometimes, because it's almost strangely arousing to hear you speak about sticky tape dispensers, and it's like, this is really safe and relaxing, and I could just nestle in and just feel, like I could drift off into a hardware dream. But I
was thinking a little bit about it, like after you pointed that out, and I think it might be like, just like a subconscious reaction to the classic YouTubing presenter, which is just totally over the top and outrageous, and for some reason, I've just decided to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, be gentle. Well, it works, man. Like, it's captivating on many levels, and I'm interested. Have you had positive feedback? Because you're only doing it on Instagram stories at the moment, so they evaporate after 24 hours, right?
I've actually been downloading them. I started downloading a couple of them as I was recording them, because I thought, this is not too bad. Maybe I'll upload them and store them somewhere for posterity. Like, maybe other people would want to know how tape gets cut in a tape dispenser.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting topic. I've not seen how a tape dispenser works on a video.
Okay, so the reason why the tape dispensers thing came about was, so I have this, do you have like these random groups of friends online who you've never met in person, but you share like this obscure topic with them? No?
Like an online community. Well, I don't know. My communities, there's some, I can relate. I'll say that much.
All right. Okay. Well, I live in the middle of nowhere, so like, in order for me to connect to my community, I need to do it online, right? So anyway, there's this artist, Tom Sachs, and he's like one of my favorite artists. And there's like there was an Instagram group, and it was the only reason why I joined Instagram was this Instagram feed, which was these really detailed photos of this sculptor's work, and you could really get in and see how it was made. And I've never been able to get to one of these Tom Sachs exhibits because he's American and all these shows are in Europe or America and stuff. So it was the only way I could actually see up close some of these sculptures. Anyway, so this guy created like a private group, and it's called the Sachs Squad, and it's just a whole bunch of us who are a little bit too obsessed about this guy's work, and we just talk about different elements, different approaches and that kind of stuff. And anyway, I was sitting there one day and I was like, I wish I could be there. I wish I could be part of it, because Tom Sachs always describes his studio as like a teaching hospital, as a place where these people can go and learn about art and do it in like by practice rather than by theory. So I kind of started thinking about the old Australian School of the Air. You know how you could get like a little radio and you'd radio in and the teacher would teach you over like a closed circuit radio or like a CB radio? Shortwave, that's what I'm looking for. Anyway, so I sent to these guys, I was like, hey, do you guys want to do like an assignment or a challenge? It'll be like the School of Radio. We'd all work on something, and then we just share our approaches and our techniques and stuff, and would see what happens. And they're like, yeah, that's all right, let's do it. And so it ended up being like a reading group, but with more power tools. And one of the items that Tom's created over the years is tape dispenser. He makes like these tape dispensers, and he's always disappointed with the tape dispenser. He always says like they never cut properly, they're always not heavy enough. Anyway, he's got a whole bunch of things as to why his tape dispensers suck.
Yeah.
And so we thought, oh, we'll all try to make a tape dispenser. And it grew into this thing that's bigger than what we anticipated. Like there's a whole bunch of people that are out there making tape dispensers at the moment.
Wow. I didn't realize this was part of a collaborative work. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of a little bit hidden still, but it was a surprisingly hard thing to do. And now I know way more about a tape dispenser than I ever thought I would. And I don't know where that leaves me right now.
Well, you're going to have, sticky tape in your house is going to be way more accessible than it is in other people's houses. I think that's the kudos that you get.
The funny thing is
you'll
like,
have
I've
a
got
badge for
bucket,
that, and people will give you respect.
This bin bucket, and it's just full of like all these scrunched up bits of tape where I've been testing this tape dispenser. Mate. But it was, somebody said something about it, like in this group, they're like, oh, this is really good. I would never have thought of doing it like that. And because I used to write software full time for a living, I think that's the approach that I took with building this tape dispenser, is that it was like this incremental thing that you just kept bolting stuff on until it worked. And
I'm sorry, I can't help but imagine this anecdote being heard by some poor, oppressed grey corporate drone riding public transport on the way to the illegal intern position where they have to photocopy stuff all day or something, and here's you talking about the ins and outs of a sticky tape dispenser while you work in the rainforest. Yeah, super relatable.
It's been like an obsession. It's actually, I've gotten into a bit of trouble. Like there's a whole bunch of work that I should be doing, and I've just been abandoning it all and making this tape dispenser. And now that it's out of my system and I've got this tape dispenser that's standing on my bench, my relationship with it now is a little bit fraught because it represents...
No, look, there's something magnificent that you're able to do this, that someone somewhere has this level of time and dedication to sticky tape. It's making me very happy that someone out there, is doing what they want to do on their own terms. That's great.
But the thing is that there's more people out there that are doing it. So there's like Canadians, Germans, like English people, like there's quite a few out there.
But as a percentage of the population, I think it's going to be pretty small number.
Yeah, we're not talking thousands, but we're talking tens. Yeah. Anyway, I've got to get back to work. I've got to make a DMX controller.
Oh, nice. That will integrate with the OPZ when I get one.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my next toy on my wish list. Actually, after a Nintendo Switch, perhaps, but a whole bunch of things that I want. But the OPZ is amazing. That's my next, after the OP1, like it integrates, it controls lighting and integrates with the Unity API, so you can control visuals and video game elements.
Yeah, right. So does it have like DMX connectors and that kind of stuff?
It integrates with them through some magical connector. I'm not sure, but it supports, it works with DMX and it works with Unity.
All right. So it's got like the, like some sort of dongle, Apple style, that breaks it all out. Because aren't those things really small?
The OPZ is tiny. It's like the size of a TV remote control. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like those XLR connectors, they're like massive.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have any of those. It's I'm not sure what connections it uses, but it can do this. It supports DMX and is built for it.
Right.
And it has some lighting patterns built in, and you can map them to events in your sequence as well. So as you're composing your music, you can map particular lighting events to a particular instrument. At least that's my understanding of it. And you can do the same thing with Unity mechanics as well. So you can have animations that are triggered by certain parts of your composition as well, which is pretty exciting.
Nice. Yeah. No, this was one that was hanging from like a ceiling in theatre shows where they'd want something to drop from the ceiling. So they had like a little servo controller in it, and then something would drop from the ceiling on a cue.
Oh, cool.
And it was really cool, and it worked seamlessly in with the theatre performance and stuff. But the guy that made this is like this Brisbane electrician, and they had this problem where people were burning out servo motors inside the drop. So I'm making a controller that doesn't burn out the servo motors. Like, you know how they've got the little slider on the table? They could use that to set
like a
or
fader.
to drop things. Sorry?
Like a fader on a desk on a console, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So they could use the fader to move a motor arm. Okay. Except if they push the fader too far, they could burn out the servo motor.
Yeah, no, that's not good. That's bad design.
Yeah. Well, that's version 2, so that's what I'm working on at the moment. So.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent, man. Cool.
Did I tell you about? Am I going to get in trouble? How are you posting this online?
I have no idea. We're live streaming right now.
Are we?
Imagine that. No, as if I would do that. No way. I'm just recording. I'm recording 2 audio files, yours and mine, and then I'll have the luxury of editing. Compress it down to.
All right. This should be fun. Like it's.
I can stop now if you like. Do you want to? Should we do
some?
No. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Once in by. Also.
Yeah, biometric sensors. For a show that I think is going to the Adelaide Fringe Festival.
You're doing something with biometric sensors for an Adelaide Fringe show?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Like biometric stuff's really tricky. So I've got some stuff which is galvanic skin response, which is a measure for how much you sweat.
Yeah, that's what the Scientologists use to do an audit.
Sorry?
Scientology uses that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got to use one of these at a train station once. It was an on-the-spot personality test, and they ask you some probing questions, and then if you from the galvanic skin response, if the needle moves, you've got to join Scientology.
Oh, really? So did you have to join Scientology?
I think it was optional, and I took that option and said, "Thank you, I'll pass." Yeah.
What was the probing question?
It was vague enough for anyone with a conscience. They'd invent their own answer. So yeah. Like stuff, how happy are you with yourself? Are you really happy? And just getting you to sort of feel a bit of doubt and then just running with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm building that. I don't know if it's going to be as good as Scientology, though. That would be a good angle.
Well, how good would that be? Like to get an e-meter, that's what they're called. To get a secondhand e-meter and integrate that into a theatre show. So many layers.
Well, we actually got I've got one here.
Or an arcade machine. Scientology.
No, it's not a Scientology machine. It's one of those lie detectors.
Oh, polygraph, perfect.
Yeah, and it's kind of dodge, hey, but it's interesting the mechanics and the sensors that they work. So they've got like the galvanic skin sensor, heart rate, and then they've got this chest strap for measuring. Your breathing, respiration.
I need video.
And that seems to be the hardest one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Get this on YouTube, Clinton. This is valuable stuff. No, seriously, this is amazing. Like the idea of all of these biometric things being mapped to something real. It's all theory in my head, but to see any of this stuff would be remarkable. Yeah, I'm not really. It's one of those classic things where somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, can you build this?" And I foolishly say, "Yeah, no problem." And then I freak out and try and work out how the hell I'm going to make it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit like that tape dispenser, but on steroids, with more wires.
Indeed. Yeah. That's ambitious. Anyway. I respect that. That's fantastic. Well, keep me posted.
Yeah.
But hey, how do people find you and your wacky contraptions online if you want to build your audience from this little chat?
Reprage.com. But I don't think I really want to build my audience from this. What I was going to say is that
this chat's not good enough to warrant people discovering you. You want them to find you're embarrassed to be associated with me.
What I was going to say is that I enjoyed this conversation and I enjoy our conversations. Mm-hmm. But then when you're like, I'm going to record this and turn it into a podcast, it's like, yeah, we've spoken about this for a while.
Yeah.
But then at the start, like it took you a little while to snap into regular conversation mode. You were a little bit self-conscious at the start.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's my bag. That's my brand. Dude, have you seen Ode to Failure? Have you got the slightest idea of what goes on inside my head? the competing forces all fighting with each other about which word's going to come out next and in what tone and how self-conscious I should be. It's messy in there. So
yeah. I know what you mean. I relate. And that's what I wanted to say is that it got more conversational as we went along, and I like that, and I thought it was good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I hope
so we should.
I hope it's usable though. That's my thing.
Well, yeah. I don't. You
how
probably
slick
chuck
does it
it
need
up
to
and
be? Should I do my triple M? Hey, coming at you thanks to icy cold cans of Coke. Do I need to throw that in? I don't know.
The brown couch.
It's the brown couch with Clinton and Drew. That sort of thing. Maybe.
There's your intro right there.
Yeah, maybe. Gosh. All right, let's. I don't want to hang up on you, but I do want to stop recording. So, if that makes sense. So, I want to do a wrap up and then press stop and then chat to you off recording mode. Does that make sense?
All right, go.
So, how do we wrap it up? Thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping by. That's my thing. Thanks for stopping by. And then, yeah.
Can you hold on to this for me?
All right. So that was Clinton Freeman speaking with me. For some reason, it was an experiment. Let's try it again, perhaps sometime. Cool.
I don't know, man.
I
think the ending should be just like, it was cool talking to you.
Thanks for the chat.
Like, yeah, like how does our conversation normally end? We don't end with like crazy over the top. This is such and such. This is just, and now it was cool catching up.
Sponsors. Yeah, I don't know. All right, cool. Yeah. Point taken. I'm going to hit stop.
All right.